There's some caveat before I start. I think I'm one of Mungun's worst students here. I was taught by Mungun, but I used the skills there to find better coders than myself. So when someone asked me to talk about Bitcoins, I was thinking how to best address it. Because there's 4 angles in Bitcoins why it's becoming so big: financial, economical, political, and the technology as well. But the tech side, obviously I have now a team that works for me, so I'll try to put more here to add more value to you guys. Okay. So next page. Sorry, it's a finance thing. Okay. My background, you can go to LinkedIn, have a look. It will take me like 2 hours to talk. I'm running a hedge fund since college days. So from then till now, this hedge fund has been running for 11 years. So for 11 years, and now I'm convincing my investors to put a portion into Bitcoins. This was after the crash of, I don't know if you know the main exchange Mt. Gox. Yeah. And because after it crashed, I looked at all the data, it just looked to me that this is the next big thing by looking at the different financial data as well. But doing this fund is not my main thing. It was out of the desperation of some family issues that got me into the finance industry. My training is in computer science in college, so I always wanted to make things. So now that I moved from Hong Kong to Singapore, and my family's here now, decided to make use of the startup scene, know people here, and that was in mid-2012 that I entered the startup scene, and in early 2013, that's when I got to see Bitcoins. Now, before I play the video, what got me interested in Bitcoins is mostly on the financial side. After the financial side, I realized tech is also quite amazing. But just for people that don't know Bitcoins, I think this is one of the best videos out there.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower. You can use them in every country. Your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Bitcoins are generated all over the internet by anybody running a free application called a Bitcoin miner. Mining requires a certain amount of work for each block of coins. This amount is automatically adjusted by the network such that Bitcoins are always created at a predictable and limited rate. Your Bitcoins are stored in your digital wallet, which might look familiar if you use online banking. When you transfer Bitcoins, an electronic signature is added. After a few minutes, the transaction is verified by a miner and permanently and anonymously stored in the network. The Bitcoin software is completely open source and anybody can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Let's look at some examples of how Bitcoins are already used today. You can purchase video games, gifts, books, servers, and alpaca socks. Several currency exchanges exist where you can trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Bitcoins are a great way for small businesses and freelancers to get noticed. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, there are no chargebacks or fees, and you get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For your first Bitcoins and more information, visit weusecoins.com.
Okay, so a little history about the digital currencies. Bitcoin is not the first one. There have been many failed currencies. There are a lot of the guys that created the currencies had the ego in place. So DigiCash, eCash, Eurobank, all these were currencies that failed. Why? Because they showed themselves as the founder. And when you try to target the US dollars, especially these are all US currencies, US government will actually clamp you down and they tell you to fold. And then when the founder has to fold, then basically the whole currency will be gone. Okay. So one of the lessons for the Bitcoin founders is that founder exposure will lead to a meltdown of the currency. So there's two things that for a good currency, you need founders to be unknown. The founder, the name so-called is called Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't know if he's Japanese. We don't know if he's Ethiopian. We don't know if he's from the Arctic. That's the idea. It's just the name. US has been trying to arrest this guy for such a long time, but still can't find him. So they basically have given up, although the wanted warrant is actually still there. Yeah. So that's criteria one. Criteria two is that it has to be decentralized. Decentralized why? Say if one country starts using Bitcoins, and it's this country that is so centralized that everything is based here, if all the governments suddenly attack them, then Bitcoins is gone. But now, decentralized, well, that's for old currencies. Bitcoins now, it's everywhere. All the miners are everywhere making coins, and then there's a public ledger, what you call it, which is all the transactions, which can be viewed by every single miner, every single person. Just that all the transactions are obviously anonymous. So that's why Bitcoin is so big, because it's very hard to shut it down. Unless you shut down the internet, okay, the whole world's internet, then you can shut down Bitcoin. Okay? So as I said, there are four main perspectives that people got to know about Bitcoins. One is financial, one's from the economical, technology, and political. Financial is, if you, in terms of funds, like my fund is based in US dollars, and every day I really can't sleep. What happens if the US government said, okay, we're not paying off China, we're not paying off Singapore, and then basically my fund also would be in trouble. So I'll omit the economics and political. I'll talk about just the finance and technology. Okay. So from the finance perspective, the two main things that got me into Bitcoins. One is the problem with the US dollar. Okay. You can see after the financial crisis, Singapore houses have become so expensive. It's because, to cut it short, the US government has been printing so much money that all this money is now invested into Asia. Okay, so but even our jobs can't even pay for the houses. And so that's why I needed something to help me balance my funds. Second, the central banks. Central banks are your worst enemy. MBS is your worst enemy. No one for MBS, right? Central banks are here to protect banks, not to protect you. Okay, so whenever banks fail, they protect them. Whenever you fail, no one protects you. Okay, exact idea. And Lehman Brothers is only 1 in a million exceptions. Okay, from the technology side for Bitcoins, it's decentralized, as said. It's everywhere. Everyone can become a miner. Everyone can start their own startup by looking at the code. Everyone can basically buy from anywhere. You don't need to be in one location. It can be online, you can buy offline. For me, I usually buy my coins offline as well, because I don't want it to go to a bank. And that's the main idea, is to be anonymous. Why anonymous and not try to show yourself? The idea for regulation is actually so that government can see where your transactions are, and so they can tax you. Not because they want to regulate you. Regulate you is just the lower term for enforcement. Enforcement means they go arrest you, put you in jail. So that's the lower side. Okay? It's not a currency, so to speak. It's like HTTP. It's a protocol. It's a rule. Email stays, FTP stays, HTTP stays, Bitcoin stays, and now there's Litecoin, this coin, that coin. Yes, there's a lot of different coins. I can talk about that later, but it's basically immersed inside the internet. It will not go away. Okay. And now, from a technology perspective, I see so many new startups using Bitcoins. Like Canada has now a Bitcoin ATM. US giftcoins.me is putting the gift cards where it's exchanged for Bitcoins, like US dollars, $50 exchange for like 0 point something Bitcoins. You can buy from the 7-Elevens over there. And so it's trying to get more people to use it. And as for the APIs, yes. And there's a lot of exchanges now that are so steady that they provide very easy to use APIs. even I know how to use it. It's because the Bitcoin source itself, well, for me, it's very hard to understand. But now, for people that want to try out how to even just start a startup, can use the APIs from multiple sources now. So Bitcoin's future, people have always been asking, what happens if Bitcoin's crash? What happens if government clamps it down? Bitcoin will go to zero. The idea for Bitcoin to come up, Bitcoin was actually registered as a company in late 2008 when the financial crisis happened. Of course, it was just 0.0001 cent to 1 Bitcoin back then. It was made because US was printing so much money that they need something. They need to create another gold, so to speak. Gold is another topic that I can argue that it's quite manipulated by the government. Okay, so when I mean US parity, what I'm seeing is US dollars, that Bitcoin, the total value, would equal to the amount. This is the total amount of US dollars floating in the world. There's 60 trillion US dollars in the world right now. Used for all over the place, for oil, for gold, for drugs, and people say that Bitcoin people go for money laundering. I think US dollars is more money laundering than that. 60 billion versus 10 billion. Yeah. So I do see that Bitcoin's the market worth at least be around 10%. And that's around at least 6 trillion. Bitcoin's future, the uncertainty will stay. Now it's basically a currency war, not between different currencies, but between an unregulated movement of money to the regulated. So unregulated versus regulated. Uncertainty will stay, but as you know, even for startups, they try to solve problems, try to find opportunities. Because of uncertainties, there will be opportunities. And there will be a lot more copycats like Litecoin, Namecoin, and stuff. And then people, when I read the forums, people tell me that there might be a better coin than Bitcoin. The Mastercoin is coming out to be better than Bitcoin. Problem is right now, it's like the old keyboard war. Back then, when there was a QWERTY, there was also many different keyboards. And the keyboards themselves, they're always ones better than QWERTY, but QWERTY had the most market share already. So even if you have a better one, no one will be able to find it. Countries would continue to sanction. This is sanctioned countries will be using Bitcoins. What I mean, for example, Cyprus now. Cyprus is within the EU. They had so many problems that the EU strapped them of cash. They had no more cash. So what they do now, even the university takes in Bitcoins. Okay, so university take Bitcoins. Countries that see the threat of US dollars would use Bitcoins. And although I have no evidence, but I do believe China and North Korea uses Bitcoins. Because no one would want the North Korean currency. Yeah.
Recent news that China has shut down.
That will go with you. That's actually very, very good news.
Is it?
So if you do a Bitcoin startup, Bitcoin is like the Wild Wild West in Texas back then in the early 1700s. Okay, because there's no rules. So if you die, no one's going to save you. If you lose your money, no one's going to save you. But again, I use the same analogy for gold. If you store gold under your bed, if someone goes into your house and takes your gold away, no, there is no insurance for that. Bitcoins is the same. Okay, so to go navigate this very uncertain path, I think it's important to find a good lawyer. Find a good lawyer that can advise you that when you know regulators come, then you can at least know how to answer. So I'll give you an example, the exchange in Singapore right now, called the FYP, I don't know if you've heard of it, which is the main exchange for Bitcoins in Singapore. They have very big problems, but they are very steady. I know the coder, he didn't do his homework properly by getting a right lawyer. He just read everything himself. He did everything right now, the regulators are not going to pester him anymore. But if you had a lawyer at the beginning to help you, it will be much easier. Policies change, so now this is Singapore allows Bitcoins, which it does because it's not regulated, you have to bear in mind what happens if they start regulating. How are you going to mitigate all the different risks? Okay. This is what I learned from the Bitcoin founder here. Stay gray, don't go white. Stay gray, going black means going illegal. Going white means fully legal. They're not going to like Bitcoins anyway. So if you have a good lawyer that can help you navigate, staying gray like on either end will be better than going white, because otherwise you have to go with all the different regulations. And yeah, Wild Wild West. If you do bad, no one's going to save you. Okay, so in terms of opportunities that I see that people can go into, is that the transactions are very tedious. As you can see just then, there was a window that shows how, like e-banking, you transfer money to this guy, and then suddenly there's this weird code that comes up. I think for iOS and developers, they will understand. That's the public key, right? Public key, you give it to someone, and then you tell that person, hey, just put money into this key, and then the Bitcoins will be mine. But for the normal person, they have no idea how encryption works. They have no idea how a public key works. So if there was a startup that helps make the transactions much more simpler, that would be a great startup. That was what I was trying to do at Angel Hack with the team. Adoption is a problem. So people need to buy Bitcoins, but don't know where to buy, don't know how to buy. Giftcoins.me is trying to sell the prepaid cards. For example, if one day if the rupiah, which I'm actually targeting in Indonesia as well, keeps inflating like crazy, they would need to find a way to mitigate the risk. So countries with high inflation and continuous recession will see Bitcoins rising. Capital controls, so like China, for example, they only allow money going in and not coming out. Okay, so, but you Chinese have now quite a lot of money, but somehow all the money is still coming out. So, but it's only a small bit coming out. So if you know how to tackle that part as a startup, that also can be quite a lot of opportunities. And in terms of regulation, regulators are employees. They don't understand what they're doing. They had new regulations that come up that they might not even understand Bitcoins. So if you know how to read it properly, there will be opportunities there too. I just asked my lawyer, she's now an entrepreneur lawyer, so I gave her a share as well. We were reading the Securities Act together, the US one is damn long. I have no idea how to read it. She just pinpoint this, hey, this part is good enough to tell the US government this is not a security, this is not an asset, so they cannot regulate it. Yeah. Whoops, you see I'm not good at Keynote, sorry. So 3 main startups that I see really pushing it out of the comfort zone for normal, for the masses. Coinable is doing something going backwards. So for Indonesians, a lot of the phones are still on 2G and 2.5G, so not really on the smartphone. What we're also doing is that we're targeting all the 2G phones to be able to use Bitcoins. So just doing transactions between using SMS and then basically transmitting coins that way. Also working with another startup, we'll mention the name, doing mobile payments for Indonesia, which is to be cash on delivery. But at the same time, we worry that the person gets the cash at the door, will just run away. So we're now working on something on Bitcoins to make sure that we can use SMS just to transfer the money. Okay. Coinbase, I don't know if you've heard recently, they had raised $25 million from multiple investors. Coinbase is a startup that tries to be a bank. And why the investors like them? Because they know that they can pass the regulation. So this company positions itself as, I know how to go mitigate all the regulation risk, regulatory risk, so you give me more money, you'll be safe. Yeah. Okay, so So asked me what we did at Angel Hack. As I said, the problem with our team came in the top 10 out of the 60. Even when I pitched this idea to find my team, the audience basically half of them booed and half of them actually said, "Wow, this is amazing." We were trying to find a way to not use the public key. Okay, so we had an idea using the iPhone. The simple way of speaking was airdrop for currencies, airdrop for bitcoins. So if on the iPhone, right now it's for photos. If we're actually coding a way, hacking around it so that two phones, when they near each other, can transfer the currency. Yeah. And Rakuten, the VC, came up to me and said, if you can do this for the SIM cards, because there's a lot of prepaid SIM cards in Southeast Asia, that when you buy a card, there's still value left. If you can take that value for you to go buy food, for you to go buy cigarettes or whatever, take that to become real money instead of just throwing it away, that is also, VCs actually like that idea. Okay. So yeah, I'm very into mobile payments because I don't believe PayPal should be the only payment in the whole universe. Yeah. So a lot of people told me, actually, there's even the bankers keep telling me, Anson, the bitcoins are so volatile. How can it become a currency? And my two answers I have for them was 4 years. Bitcoin has only been in existence for 4 years, and it's volatile only for 4 years. Oh, this is the chart of the US dollar since 1900. Would you like steady going down or volatile going up? Right, that's my question for them. Okay, so back then, if you had $100 bill, it's actually now worth $3. So US dollars, the central bank has been printing so much money back then that you don't actually feel it. The idea is for you guys to, it's like very slow sort of drug that you don't even know. Okay, so this is only for US dollars. Renminbi chart, next one. This is the renminbi. Renminbi from the 1970s, the government said, the central bank said, okay, we're going to cut it in half. Okay, we just got cut it in half, we don't care what you think. Boom, it's more than half. Okay, so it was 0.65, okay, all the way to 0.11. Just overnight. Okay, fine, not overnight. Just over a few years, they just want to cut, they just cut. That's what happens when central banks feel like doing it, they can just do it. So Bitcoin doesn't have a central bank. The idea is just market and supply and demand. And then all the news and propaganda saying that renminbi is going up, well, it's not even up there yet. It's only a very small way. Yeah, so Bitcoin is volatile. Well, at least it's market forces. The future is still there. As I said, Bitcoins right now is 10 billion versus US dollars is 60 trillion. You can see how many more zeros you can add for the Bitcoin market worth. Yeah. I know there will be a lot of, if you have questions, then just ask because I don't know what to write because every question is very different.
So you said there are 10 billion Bitcoins in the world, right?
No. There's 12 million right now.
12 million right now, and the
Projected 21 by 2140.
21 billion.
No. There's 12 million now. The last coin will be mined at 2140.
21 million.
No, to the year 2001.
Yeah, that will be at 21 million.
Oh, yes.
So there are, supposedly it goes mainstream, there are 7 billion people right now, and Hans Rosling said project for 20 billion people in the world. Will it be enough Bitcoins for every man, woman, and child in the world?
Okay, so the paradigm right now for US dollars, we see it's when you buy a Subway, okay, we buy a Starbucks in Singapore, it's $6.90. Okay, $6.90. It's 2 decimals. Bitcoins is 8 decimal places. So basically, if 8. So when I transfer 0.40 of Bitcoins to another wallet, it actually says 4000 and 0 7 times. Yeah, so it cuts into that much. But now the paradigm, when it was 1,000, was shifting. Instead of people talking about BTC, they're talking about MBTC already. And then if US dollars keeps losing value, the next one is MMBTC. So it's against US dollars, it just keeps going up. It's not per coin per se. People can just own a slice. So the coin, if you own it, becomes like more of an eagle type of thing. You can own 0.745864 bitcoins.
So what's the value of Bitcoin in real terms? Let's say
Right now it's about 500.
let's say Subway.
Subway?
Yes. You said Subway.
Okay. Then
Seriously, $10,000
that was when it first started. No, then you convert. If Subway only
say 5 cents, right?
okay.
0.1.
No. So then you just convert. Okay, I do have internet here. Okay, so it's just Sing dollars convert to bitcoins. Okay, one bitcoin right now is $500 US. Then you just convert the US dollars to the Sing dollars.
So my point is that will it be enough bitcoins in the world for supporting, especially everyone uses it, will it be enough in the world since there's a cap to it, and there's no cap to the population of the world once we
In fact,
finally colonize Mars.
they claim that that's a feature because the US dollar, you can print as many US dollars you want, so there's no bottom.
So you keep losing value. So the feature of bitcoins is supposed to be like gold. Gold in the world is limited. And back then when it was backed by gold in the 50s and 70s, the economy was doing well. The countries that do well, yes, it shows inflation and then they need to cool down. But now no. US, they like when there's recession, they keep printing and then prevent another recession and they just keep going up. The difference here is there's two sides. This goes into economics. Okay, basically there's two schools of thought. One is the central banks are good at what they're doing, and whenever bad things happen, they print money. The other school of thought is whenever an economy overheats, if you have a limited currency, then inflation will show. When inflation shows, then it tells you you're overheating, then it will calm you down. Okay, so yes, to answer your question, there will be enough bitcoins. Why? Because bitcoins can be cut into so many slices. You don't need to own one. And like one of the news reporters says, if bitcoins goes to 2.4 trillion, the total worth, it's possible that one bitcoin equals $240,000 US.
$240,000.
Yeah, so imagine that. So half a bitcoin would be 120,000. Yeah.
In today's terms.
Today's terms is $500. Right now it crashed all the way to 500. Yeah.
Just a few weeks ago, it was 1,000.
Okay. Almost 60% of bitcoins are already mined, right?
Oh, also.
Almost 60% of the total bitcoins are already mined.
Yes.
Right? That means I'm going to assume that less than 0.01% of people know about bitcoins as well.
Yeah.
So eventually, it's more like 50% of people own the Bitcoin wealth of like 60% of Bitcoin's wealth is owned by less than 0.0001%.
Actually,
It's again going to become like US dollar.
That's not right.
in total, there are 924 people owning half of all the bitcoins right now.
Yeah.
But this is market forces. Those guys believed that the bitcoins would do well when bitcoins was 0.0000 something. They took the risk of going in. So in terms of market forces, yeah, the guys that are late, then it's too bad. But the guys that are early, they took the risk to go in.
In fact, people are wondering who's the Satoshi Nakamoto. He had the first 1 million Bitcoin.
Oh, first 1,500.
And it's never been spent, and nobody knows who has it.
So it's the first 1,005 back then was 0.00, so it was like $15 US back then. And then the first pizza was Saint Mumud. They used 10,000 bitcoins to buy for one pizza. Someone was willing to accept it, but because per bitcoin was I don't know how many cents US back then. Yeah, but now of course it's different. The idea is if US keeps printing, everywhere in the world keeps printing money, there's inflation, Bitcoin is very hard to remove the demand. Yeah.
So what will happen when there is a recession? Like for example, gold is a currency standard was not used after World War I and World War II because it's very difficult if a country enters into recession. Like for example, Europe. Any country cannot print euros.
Yes.
So if a European Union country enters recession, it's gone.
Yes. Okay. So so what happens is, just to clarify, gold was depegged because the countries did not have enough money to pay off the debt. So in 1970s, for example, when US 1976 or 71, US depegged from gold when gold is 35 ounces to $1, $1 US, and now it's 1,000 something. It was because of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War really hit into their pockets. So because they were so powerful, they can say, okay, we're going to print money and just give the money to you. Okay. So in recessions, if it's hooked onto the gold back then, countries that do well will have inflation, and then when they go into deflation because it's fixed amount, then let it be. Then there's recession, and then they will heal again. It's basically, there's the other school of thought, which is called the Austrian school, is self-healing. Like the market should self-heal without the government touching. Just like a human should self-heal, it shouldn't be going to the hospital all the time just to do operations for one cut.
But it takes a very long time to heal, right?
This experiment of Austrian school was used in Austria back then. Okay, this goes in history. Okay, but when it's self-healing in the sound currency and everyone, no intervention, it's actually very fast. It's deep but fast. Just that right now what the Fed is doing, they're delaying a bubble coming up. The more they print, they're actually delaying. And now with interest rates going up, they are very scared, they don't know what to do. So once they are not printing money, Singapore will go into recession, Australia will go into recession, China will go into recession together because everyone has been using the bubble money. Yeah. Okay, good. Any more questions?
Suppose I want to bring money, say, to another country without going to central banks. How do I do?
Without going to banks. Okay. Well, you mean money as in bringing bitcoins?
Are you saying dollars? Let's say I want to buy property in another country. I have a few, let's say 100,000, and then I want to move that 100,000 under the radar. What do I do?
Under the radar, okay. There's a website which I always use called It's Legal, localbitcoins.com. Okay, you can do online transactions. You can do offline transactions. So if let's say you offer a certain price for bitcoins, say for 600 US dollars now, and someone says, okay, I like that price, let's meet somewhere. So basically you transfer through the wallet, and that guy hands you the 600 bucks.
Okay, but I have to find a guy, right?
Well, even the exchange, you have to, you go to exchange, the other guy is giving it to you.
See, I don't want to change it, but now this guy is going to use it.
So how do I convert it in the other countries?
Find
Find someone in the other country.
And that's why I'm saying right now one of the opportunities is getting more people to use bitcoins. If there are smart startups that can find a way to get the mass using it easily, then yeah, there will be more buyers and sellers. Also, Bitcoin prices are going up and down so much. It's also because there's not enough people. But with more sanctioned countries, with inflation, the number of people are already increasing. You can see by the volume of transactions since 2009. Yeah.
No, volume is not good.
No, as in the number of transactions that go on, it's much more than before. Of course, some idiots can do 1 Bitcoin per time, right?
High frequency trading.
Yeah. So,
trading.
but you can also see that when it reaches 1,000, lots of people started to know. When the Silk Road closed, lots of people started to know. When it goes back to 1,000, more people will know. So all the price points are psychology points anyway. I've tried as techy as possible. I mean, the open source thing, I'm sure if you guys are interested, it's on the web.
So there's APIs where you can get the actual current price right now.
Yes, for example, blockchain.info, that website shows all the different transactions. They also have an API that allows you to check your own wallet, check your password or whatever, and then the keys. And yes, you can check the prices now as well. Yeah.
There is
But it's
no
actually not-
iOS API as of now.
Good question. Yeah, iOS right now is Apple is being a stubborn donkey right now. Okay.
That's good.
There are Bitcoin apps.
They are Bitcoin apps, but not the main apps for transactions. There's one called the blockchain, but now I see some startups mitigating this by really making, I know Google would disagree, making some nice web style stuff for iOS. Okay, it's trying to mitigate that, but
Web apps, basically.
well, basically web apps, yeah. They are missing the train because Android is basically very free on this, and so even for my startups, I have to get an Android phone. Yeah, I had no other choice because iOS is not doing anything. But we need to test the web apps on the phone itself. But there are opportunities in ASEAN like crazy. The idea is US people are going very 3G. If you can find ways to go 2G in transactions, you basically conquer the whole market. The US can't even come in. Yeah.
2G.
2G, because there's over 50 to 60% of ASEAN is still using 2G phones or even don't have it.
Oh,
So you do a Bitcoin transaction through.
You can do it as a
Or on the G2ME phone.
That's not too hard. You can design one.
Exactly. It's not too hard.
Right.
Thank you.